trial. Joining us now to break down what to expect is Sara Stewart, a local criminal defense attorney with no connection to the case, but whose expertise we value. Sara, appreciate your time this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you as well.
So, Sara, we just heard from our reporter in the courtroom that attorneys are planning to get in 36 people in the courtroom today, tomorrow 48, and then, any subsequent days that they need to get folks in there to try to pull together this jury. I mean, if you're in their shoes, what questions are you going to be asking potential jurors, and how hard is it to seat a jury in a case that's as high profile as this one?
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult and really important. I think in a case like this, in a case that's not just your typical tragic school shooting case, but one that's really about when a parent can be held liable, criminally liable for the behavior of their child, you're going to be looking to really walk the line of finding jurors who are going to keep an open mind, who maybe have some experience with parenting, but who are not going to look at what was done in this case or not done in this case too critically. We know that these prosecutions are still somewhat uncommon, but we've seen a couple others, and we know that the storage of the gun is going to be a big issue. So you're also going to walk that line of gun owners, but also maybe looking for people who are gun owners who don't have super strong opinions about how guns are stored.
Yeah, you mentioned some of those previous cases, I think, to the Crumbly case in Michigan, the Rich Neck shooting case in Virginia, which I was actually there when that happened. A 6-year-old shot his kindergarten teacher. And they end up charging the mother with that crime. I mean, you're not going to charge a 6-year-old, but laws differ by states, right? So, I mean, what does Georgia's law say about what prosecutors can do with this particular case and the facts that we have here?
This, to my understanding, is a case of first impression in Georgia, but we know that prosecutors will need to be pursuing themes of criminal negligence on the part of Colin Gray and assigning liability to him based on his negligence. You're really going to be looking at probably reckless conduct and allegations of failure to properly secure a gun. Although that is going to be interesting in Georgia. I don't know how many people are aware, but the legislature just recently passed a bill that prohibits municipalities from regulating the way that guns are stored. So I think that's going to be an interesting part in this case if it comes up.
I mean, the charges we're looking at here, 8 counts cruelty to children, 2 counts of second-degree murder, 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. How high of a bar is that for prosecutors to cross when it comes to convincing a jury to convict on all those counts?
They're going to have some work cut out for them. But again, I think that it's really going to hinge on whether you have jurors who are willing to kind of take the action or inaction of the parent and make that the key in why this happened. There are other areas of liability in this case, as we've seen through some of the pretrial hearings. I think we can expect the defense to try to counter that. And the prosecution's probably going to have to respond to questions about potential liability of law enforcement and school officials who also may have missed some signs in this case that violence could be forthcoming.
And Sara, I just want to expand on that. Using your expertise as a criminal defense attorney, if you were to be representing Mr. Gray in this case, what arguments would you be making before the jury?
I think the key argument is going to be, because we've seen some evidence come out pre-trial that Colin Gray did make some attempts to get mental health counseling for his child. So I think you're really going to want to focus on setting this up as a single father who was doing his best to support 3 children. We know the mother had some issues. There'd been some defects involvement. So really setting this up as a parent who's doing his very best, but just wasn't able on his own to provide the support that was needed, and emphasize that there were other players who also should have been aware. We know that law enforcement had come to the house before and left without treating it as too serious of an issue when there'd been prior indication that Colt Gray maybe had made some statements about school shootings. We know that the school was aware that he was having mental health issues, and really looking at the fact that Colin Gray tried to do his best, but there were other people who could have helped who maybe didn't.
Look, Sarah, it's a tragic story. Sadly, it's one we will probably cover again in the coming years at some point, somewhere across this country. Do you think prosecutors across the nation are watching this case closely to see, what can we do if this ever happens in our backyard when it comes to charging parents?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that we have seen this as an increasing trend of kind of a third-party liability in prosecutions, not only of parents, but, we just recently had the Uvalde trial, another tragedy where criminal liability was sought for law enforcement officers who were involved in the response to that. So I do think that we will continue to see this trend of prosecutors seeking to find parties other than the shooter responsible as well.
And why do you think that is? Do you think America has just said they are fed up with these school shootings and we're going to start going after folks other than just the alleged shooters?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I do think that large portions of the country are fed up with it. And I think that prosecutors in most places are elected officials who really need to be seen as making a strong response to these shootings. And oftentimes their stance is somewhat at odds with loose gun laws that allow guns. And it's how do we as a community address the fact that these are incredibly tragic, but at the same time, not something that is really, gun access is not being legislated very much, especially in Georgia. So finding other ways to show that the community is taking it serious.
Sarah, we so appreciate your expertise this morning. Can you kind of set our expectations for this week when it comes to jury selection? I mean, how many days do you think it'll take to seat a jury, and how long could this trial potentially last?
Oh, wow. Those are great questions. And unfortunately, I'm going to give you the standard lawyer answer of it depends. In a case like this, I would not be surprised to see jury selection to take at least a full week. A lot of that's within the discretion of the judge, though. In Georgia, the judge has immense discretion on how long he lets the parties question. Also, there's a good chance that there was some pretrial. In a case like this, I would expect there maybe to have been a pretrial questionnaire that goes out to jurors to try to limit the amount of time. But I wouldn't be surprised to see jury selection take a full week, and the trial could theoretically, I would say, take a month or more.
All right, Sara Stewart, we'll be watching it every day. And we thank you so much again this morning, local criminal defense attorney Sara Stewart. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.